My name's Roger Dean, and I'm the Executive Director of EMA. We're a non-profit making, pan-European industry association for identity and security. And we're a member of the Cloud for Europe project, and very proud to be here today. I just want to start off with a question, just to see if there's any people here as old as I am. Does anyone remember X400? Oh, there's one or two. Okay. I'm very old. So, we've got an interesting panel today. We're looking at cloud computing services in the marketplace. And I think we're going to focus on SMEs and how we can encourage them to get involved. I guess you probably know that 85% of European private marketplace is made up of SMEs, so they've got a big role to play. But you know, how do they get started? Are software guides available? Is there any SLAs standardized? We're going to be talking about standards, and we continue to provide specific contract terms for them. I think we'll start off with the first speaker, and it's Marc Dunne. He's a true innovator and pragmatist in cloud telecoms and information security. He's got many years' experience as a cloud architect, and he's a specialist in applying information security frameworks to cloud platforms, and is a certified ISO 27001 ISMS lead auditor. Yes. And Marc is the CEO of SaaS Assurance, and they provide ingenious? Yes. And easy-to-use solutions to information security in many layers of cloud technology and government cloud framework. So, Marc, off you go.
Thank you for the introduction. Very good introduction. My name is Marc Dunne, CEO of SaaS Assurance. And you probably can tell by my accent, I'm Irish, I'm from Dublin. So what I'll speak about today is some of my own experience with cloud technology. I've been quite successful in the private sector in implementing a lot of cloud technology solutions. And in the last couple of years, I got specifically involved in the public sector. So I found the transition quite interesting, and I think it's a very good segue from the last conversation, actually, about standards that currently are in progress and have not actually been complete, because we have a different way of looking at that. I think it's quite interesting. Just a little bit about SaaS Assurance. We are an Irish company, but we're quite diverse, and we've got a European team. So we have Belgians, Spaniards, French, UK people. We focus on the here and now. We look at digital innovative solutions to compliance and standards. So whereas ANISA, the CSI, BSI, and Eurocloud are looking at accreditation, what we're focusing on is what can actually be done in the meantime. So if you're an SME and you're quite innovative, what can you do today about accreditation? The other thing we focus on as well is what we call the federated information security, or the cascading information security. And we try to allow our clients to look at leverage from the data center themselves, what the actual data center and the cloud provider have done themselves about information security. And you can actually leverage on those controls to make your implementation of standards as effective as possible. Some of the output and some of the research I've conducted. I've been researching cloud standards themselves for over 3 years. I've written white papers on that as well. I participated in the NIST, the US Cloud Computing Roadmap. So although I was an outsider, they let me in, and I had a good voice there. It was quite interesting. I also helped build and design an information security standards platform, which focuses on ISO 27001 and also the UK G-Cloud. So in Ireland, what's happening right now? We had Minister Brendan Howland, TD, released the cloud computing strategy in 2012. And they released a 16-point plan. They then broke it down into some activities and approximate timelines. Now, I had a little bit of an issue with that in terms of approximate, because when you come from the private sector, you want to see some actual timelines in there. And this is something that, having dealt with NIST in the US, I found that NIST were actually quite good at putting times in place and actually putting milestones and also accountability as well. So I reckon that the Irish government were lacking a little bit of accountability in terms of what they were doing with implementing cloud. In June 2013, they brought in the new CIO. And this guy, Bill McCluggage, he's actually ex-UK government. So I think they did a bit of headhunting there in terms of somebody who's actually been there and done some of this before. And what Bill talks about is, he basically talks about looking at an IT dashboard and also metrics. So ensure that you have metrics in place. So one of the takeaways I would actually suggest, if I was speaking to government right now, is to take metrics into consideration as you're planning your cloud implementation. Because I think from a metrics point of view, if you don't do that, if you don't have accountability, you're ultimately going to fail. There is a talk on metrics on the SaaS Assurance YouTube channel. So I basically did a talk at the Data Center Summit in London a few weeks ago, and I focused primarily on just metrics itself. Just a point on procurement. We are going to speak, I think Kate is going to speak about the G-Cloud a little bit as well. But in the UK, the G-Cloud, the cloud store, we had a talk on this yesterday. It's about reducing costs. Ultimately, it's about cost reduction and also engaging SMEs. The cloud store itself, as you've seen yesterday, is basically a browsable interface. You can see what cloud services are available. But what's quite interesting from an SME point of view is, by 2015, 50% of all new central government spend must go to cloud. So there's policy in place that 50% of that spend must go to cloud, and 50% of that cloud spend must go to SME. So if you look at this in detail, you're basically facing a bit of a problem there, because number one, we're saying that we need to have all this standardization and compliance in place to sell cloud technology, and number two, we have a target in place that we must actually spend it on SME. So you can imagine that the two of them are coming head to head. My point is, okay, this is guaranteed to reduce costs for government, but the question is there a genuine opportunity for SMEs? Is that a genuine opportunity, or is it just a way to cut costs in government? So my point, my takeaway point here is, ensure that if you do have a procurement system in place, ensure that it is fair and transparent. And so somebody spoke yesterday about an accreditation process that will cost in the region of €50,000 or something along those lines. It's not going to work in the SME world, okay? It's not going to work. So we need to look at accreditation process that will work in the SME world. Some of the drivers from government, I basically did a bit of research. A lot of the input I'm giving here, I'm basically sending this paper to the Irish government with suggestions. So I had a little peek around to see what was going on in the cloud world outside of Europe as well. Just in terms of drivers, the drivers for basically implementing cloud technology in the US, they speak about IT consolidation, shared services, and citizen services. What the Australians call this is success indicators. So they're looking to achieve a greater efficiency, generate greater value from ICT investment, deliver better services, and support a mobile workforce. I think we need to look at the mobile workforce a little bit more. In Canada, that's what they also look at. They basically focus on, all of our workers now have smartphones, and they basically take their laptops away. They have devices everywhere. We want to look at a citizen-centric model, where basically our cloud platform in Canada is going to be similar to the banking system, where you log into your bank and you basically obtain whatever services from your bank through one particular portal. So that's the Canadian approach. They're also looking at consolidation as well, which I think is what we all basically consider is part of cloud technology anyway. So another point I'm going to give to the Irish government is to look at the localized drivers in place, not just to take the drivers from what you think from the industry. Obviously, there's a European digital agenda, and we can all follow that, but there are also local drivers that you must take into consideration. Just a little bit on trust and compliance. Why reinvent the wheel from scratch? Okay, because you must look outside of Europe and look at such as FedRAMP in the US. What they've done with FedRAMP is they've brought an amazing process together that is based on a security assessment. It comes from NIST and FISMA, and there's also continuing monitoring in place as well. So all of this information, by the way, is publicly available on the internet if you want to see anything about these standards as well. A little step back to the UK for a moment. The UK have the G-Cloud accreditation process. A lot of people don't know exactly what the G-Cloud accreditation process is, but what they actually do there is they look at how the information is actually segmented from an impact point of view. So there are impact levels that you must take into consideration, and that's all about data sensitivity. One of the big, I'd say 90% of what you need to do in terms of accreditation is actually the international standard of ISO 27001. In terms of trust and compliance in Australia, they have a protective security policy framework and an information security manual. And it does look a lot like what's happening in the UK right now. I found, looking around, that Singapore was quite interesting because Singapore are also cutting edge in terms of cloud adoption. And what they've done is they've basically brought the accreditation and compliance and trust to a very high level that's easily understood. They're implementing a private cloud, and the private cloud basically has different zones of basic assurance, medium assurance, and high assurance. So I think that's possibly a very good place to start if there is a private cloud implementation. So one point to take away from this is to have a system in place for trust and compliance. So we spoke, or the panel spoke a while ago about all of the different standards that are currently underway. I think it's time now to choose something and to move on and to have a standard as soon as possible to catch up with what's happening in the US. Innovation. Just a little step back to Singapore. Although they do have a very good private cloud in place, they're also open to innovation as well. So they're looking at maximizing cost savings by focusing on software as a service, business analytics, CRM, and also web content management. We spoke a little while ago about the cost reduction exercise and the SME target of 50% in the UK. This, in my opinion, is the biggest opportunity for cloud in terms of SMEs, because there's an opportunity there to blend the solutions of the large system integrators. We heard yesterday that there are between 10 and 20 of those who are winning most government contracts right now. So if this is beginning to open to SMEs, the best way that you can actually achieve working with government right now is to blend the services from the large system integrators with the SMEs. An SME can't go direct to government right now and win a contract. It's not that easy. If they have a big brother working with them, it's a lot obtainable, a lot more obtainable. So why do I have Rihanna up there? Basically, what I'm trying to focus on here is that what's in vogue right now and what's fashionable right now is that the large system integrators are now working with startups. So you have organizations such as Telefonica, you've got KPMG. They're the smart guys who are looking at innovating and bringing SMEs together with large corporates to be more flexible and to be more innovative. So on that point, what I'll be saying to the Irish government as well is be open to innovation. Engage with the SMEs, engage with the startup community as well. I mean, there's a lot of dark suits in the audience today. I think if there's, for the next session, I'd like to see some hooded youths as well. You know, the bearded guys with the hoods, because these guys working in the startups are extremely innovative and they have a lot to add to this cloud sector. So the Irish government basically brought out the GCSC the 16th of October. It's the Government Cloud Services Catalogue. They're focusing on security tiers, service access tiers and classifications, data residency, security standards, monitoring and reporting, and SLAs. So from that point of view, they're really focusing on what everybody else is focusing on, but they're doing it at a local level and a European level. My point is, in terms of a cloud for Europe, I think the first thing we need to achieve in terms of cloud for Europe, and we heard from one of our French colleagues yesterday that internally, implementing cloud internally in France is going to take some time. I think focus on a local level first, get that right, and then integrate your cloud with the rest of Europe, I think is a good point to make. So that's my email address, Twitter handle, if you need to get in contact. Thank you very much.